In the spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Camaragal people, and I pay our respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people today. Thank you for watching tonight's Meet the Candidates. This is the forum for Bennelong. We've run numerous Meet the Candidates forums, and this one has been the hardest to organise. Due to the short lead up to the election, nominations only closed on Friday, and we were surprised that there were actually 8 candidates. The AEC, unlike the New South Wales AEC, does not provide contact details for the candidates. Then, if you throw in the number of public holidays between now and the election, setting a date was very hard. In fact, the only 2 confirmed candidates we had a few weeks ago for Bennelong were Jerome Laxale and Scott Young. Tonight, how it'll work, there will be candidates will have a 5-minute talk. And what we did was to decide the order of the candidates. We used a very technical method. We ripped up little pieces of paper and then we put in the hat and threw the hat around and then pulled it out. And this is the order we came up with. Jerome Laxale, ALP, John August, the Fusion Party, Barry Devine, the Hart Party, Adam Hart, Greens, and Craig Bennett from One Nation. Those 5 gentlemen are on with us tonight. The following did not respond to our request. Robert Nalbandian, who's with the Trumpet of Patriots, and Eric Chan, who's with Family First. And we couldn't even find any contact information, and I messaged their Facebook page and nothing. So Scott Young's campaign initially told us that they had a clash, but were confident that they could move it. So on the basis of that advice, we went ahead and set this date. They've now advised, after we set the date and did the publicity, they've now advised they can't move that function and that function ends at 9 o'clock. ITC has given the option of them coming on at 9:15 and presenting and being asked some of the previously asked questions. They did say to me very late today that they would text me if they had, if their other function ended. There are 2 more Meet the Candidate functions that you may want to look at, and although these forums have not had Scott confirm his attendance yet, but the other gentlemen on this forum have. There's the 1 Million Women on the 22nd of April 2025, and the Nature Conservation Council on the 23rd of April 2025. Details on how to register and attend are on the events page of our website at inthecove.com.au. So again, how does this work tonight? Each candidate has 5 minutes. After the end of the candidate's presentation, all 5 of them, I'll put your questions to the candidates. How you ask a candidate a question is you put it in the chat room. So if you can all open up your chat rooms and just see if you can type in there. Each audience member is permitted to only ask 1 question. We will ask each candidate a question to ensure that we will ask each candidate the same question to ensure that each candidate has the same amount of time. Please do not write anything in the chat that's offensive or derogatory or defamatory, as you will be removed from the chat. Please do not answer any questions on behalf of the candidate that you may be supporting. It's up to them to answer the questions. Please don't make a comment, just leave a question, as that's so much easier for us to moderate. The number 1 rule for tonight is respect. Please do not make any personal attacks via the chat about a candidate or another person. Putting your hand up for public office is daunting at any time, and people will be expelled from the chat who break our moderation rules. We will issue a warning. So without any further ado, and we've now got, how many people? We've now got over 100 people in the room and coming on. I would like to ask Jerome Laxale if he would like to give his 5-minute presentation. Just wait a second for you to be unmuted, Jerome.
I think we're good.
Good.
Well, thanks, Jackie, and thanks everyone for coming tonight. I'd like to start by also acknowledging country and paying respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And thank you all for being part of tonight. Over 100 online. Really important part of democracy to hear from all your candidates, and it's so disappointing that not all of them could be here. Hopefully you find tonight useful. For those who don't know, my name is Jerome Laxale. I'm the current federal member for Bennelong. I've been living locally for nearly 20 years, 19 to be exact. I first moved into this area in Marsfield in 2006 and now live in North Ryde, just off Pittwater Road with my partner Joe. I've got 3 kids. Joe's got 2, so that's 5 all up if you're doing the maths, and it's a bit of a juggle. I come from a small business background, family business, and a career in the private sector, serving on a few boards, a workers' compensation insurance board and a procurement company. And during that time, I was fortunate enough to become a councillor on the City of Ryde, served there for 10 years, 5 of which as mayor. So serving as mayor of the City of Ryde was a real highlight of my career, became the federal member in 2022. I got into politics because there's almost this unlimited potential to help people. And I learnt that really quickly in council. One decision of the council can change someone's life. To now have that opportunity to do that federally is just an extraordinary honour to be able to deliver for the local community that I call my home. I didn't move to Bennelong for a job. I didn't move here 18 months ago to seek pre-selection. I moved here to live here, and I moved here to raise a family, and to now have represented it at the local government level and now federally is just an extraordinary honour. I've taken that same approach of being active and listening and delivering that I learnt in local government, and I've taken that same approach to federal politics. In 3 years, I've been able to deliver over $330 million in project funding to community groups, roads, playgrounds, parks, something I'm really proud of. New South Wales' first electric-only bus depot, which will open in Macquarie Park in a couple of years. We've upgraded Blenheim Park, Stringy Bark Creek Reserve, and we've also fought for things on the national stage. We've delivered some really important cost of living relief, from tax cuts for every Australian, free TAFE to get us out of that skills crisis we were in when we came to government, cheaper medicines. Medicines would have cost $50 were it for it not for Labor's interventions. They'll be $25 from 1 January 2026. We've increased Commonwealth rent assistance, but we've done that in consultation with the community. Something I'm pretty proud of is delivery of digital payments reform, stopping small businesses and surcharges being rorted, small businesses and consumers, sorry, being rorted with surcharges. We expect the RBA to hand down their review very soon. On health, we've delivered the Medicare Urgent Care Clinic at Top Ryde. We've increased bulk billing for concession card holders and kids under 16, and a real passion area of mine, climate change. We've had an unrelenting push on renewable energy as a government, turning around a decade of climate denial. We've legislated emissions reduction targets, supported industry and households with the transition, implemented new vehicle emission standards, something that governments haven't done for two to 3 decades. And we're now seeing electricity at 40% renewable electricity in our grid, with 80 grid scale projects approved. Since the redistribution, I've also been working a bit in Lane Cove, working within the Cove themselves, trying to get to the bottom of the Cable Cowboys debacle, and we've had some wins there. Delivered funding for Hunters Hill and Lane Cove, working with the state government on some issues, particularly around the Mowbray Road bend up there. And we've done a survey to push for better buses in Bennelong. And there's more to come. This is just about the past, it's about the future. We've got top-up tax cuts. We're going to deliver more housing because we know we're in the middle of a housing crisis. We'll deliver that Medicare urgent care clinic in Chatswood, particularly for people who live in Lane Cove and surrounds that eastern part of the electorate. Fully bulk billed primary care, really important to take pressure off emergency departments. We'll open a Medicare mental health centre in Ryde. A lot of people talk about strengthening Medicare, adding mental and dental, but we're adding mental to Medicare, which is incredibly important. So you can get walk-in free urgent mental health care in Ryde in Bennelong. We've got 2035 emissions reduction targets, which needs to be set, and I want to be around the table to make sure they're as strong as they can be. We've got a 30% battery rebate for households, environmental laws to reform, more homes to build, and we've got a national environmental protection agency to establish. And we all know that all of that is at risk under a Dutton-led government. Peter Dutton and the Liberals have opposed every cost of living measure that we've brought to the Parliament. They even opposed energy rebates for small businesses. You believe that that's their constituency, but they opposed energy rebates to small businesses. We know what Peter Dutton really thinks
That's 5
about.
minutes. Thanks, Jerome.
Is that
So,
it? Cool.
yeah, so if you can
Look forward to
quickly wind up.
answering the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for winding it up quickly. John August from the Fusion Party is our next candidate to speak. Hi, John.
Okay, good. Trust you can hear me. Okay, thanks, Jackie. So I'm John August. I'm with the Pirate Party branch of Fusion. Now, I currently live in North Ryde, but I previously lived in Lane Cove and maintain my connections there. Help out at the local repair cafe. I frequent the cafes and shops in the areas and like to walk around Tambourine Bay. I previously observed how the Lane Cove Mall is still alive after 5 p.m. and after sunset, and not so many malls work as well as it does. I've long been concerned with transparency in government. We've seen both parties drag their heels on freedom of information requests, and the current Labor government has used NDAs to create a stranglehold on groups they communicate with. While you can identify achievements of the current Labor government, nevertheless, a lot of things clang. A NAC that has been ineffective, a lack of whistleblower protection, and claims about action on climate change at the same time as they open multiple mines. While their management of the economy has not been as bad as the LNP make out, Labor is too constrained to be that creative with economic policy. We have issues around housing affordability and the cost of living. From our view, the economy is out of balance and policy a slave to lobbyists and vested interests. We can all vote, but only a few of us can lobby. Our policies try to cut the Gordian knot in pursuit of a better quality of life. We think not just about economic growth, but also economic social prosperity, with an approach to take out the speculation which makes housing unaffordable. We endorse a universal basic income combined with a flat rate of tax, something that has both equity in providing people with a base rate to live their lives, along with a return for those who apply themselves. We're talking about a fundamental change in how both we and our economy relate to government. We celebrate the contribution of business, but also freedom of the individual and the part government has to play, enabling but not controlling. Few deny the worth of the mixed economy, but there's a lot under the hood. We're concerned about overreach by both government and business, with both surveillance and surveillance capitalism at work. Within the internet, we see it's full of scams and so-called dark patterns, manipulative websites. But in the world around us, we see supermarkets changing prices to play with our heads, along with patronising prompts about loyalty cards at the checkouts. Much as we've made progress, today's world is much more narky, petty, manipulative and bureaucratic. Our world has changed. The technology of advertising has developed. Now, rather than advertising, there's talk of markets in behavioural futures. Then there's government bureaucracy. I don't know if you're aware, but there was a unique botanic specimen on loan to an Australian museum from France, which was accidentally incinerated by Australian customs. There's the calculations of numbers nobody looks at, along with padded bureaucracies protecting ministers from bad press, while other government departments are starved of the resources needed to do important work, and staff are cut who are ultimately replaced with more expensive contractors. There's this theatre of claims around bureaucracy, more ideological propaganda than anything else. For sure, we want government to do its work, and maybe we need to think about that carefully, but that's different to just wading in with an axe and seeking to cut expenses. Well, what I've said so far may be enough to prompt you to vote for us in our own right, and that's really great if that's the case, but you may be contemplating giving us your first preference while ultimately voting for another party you have mixed feelings about, a party you might grudgingly, reluctantly support. So I'll look at some other parties, but I'll try not to be too negative. We appreciate the important role that business has to play and support positive innovation with innovative approaches to economics. We support the values of freedom and self-driven initiative. And while the libs are about this on paper, maybe you can see a few cracks where the reality does not match the rhetoric. So if you're thinking about the LNP, please think about us. While you may recognise some of Labor's achievements, you may be disappointed with how they've turned their backs on whistleblowers and transparency, and how limited they have been with the cost of living and housing affordability, amongst other concerns. We have a fresh approach, So if you're otherwise inclined towards Labor, please think about us. You may be impressed with a lot of green aspirations, but maybe you also feel they've lost the plot a bit. Our policies encapsulate a lot of positives like action on climate change, but are also considered and thought through. So if you're inclined towards the Greens, please think about us. Beyond the three major parties, I'd rather only punch up. So if you're thinking of voting for other parties, I can only suggest you think about what we're all offering. And regardless of whether you vote for us or not, that you find someone you feel comfortable voting for. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jackie. That's the end of my talk. Hope I got it in 5 minutes anyway.
Wow, 6 seconds to go. That is a champ. Thank you.
Oh, well, I always try to respect those requests, I have to say.
I'm impressed. Okay, thank you so much, John. The next candidate we're going to speak to is Barry Devine from the Hart Party. Thanks, Barry. Barry still online?
Oh, okay. I was having trouble unmuting. Thanks, Jackie, and hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Barry Devine. I'm standing as a candidate for Bennelong with the Hart Party. I've lived in Bennelong electorate for 32 years and have worked in various areas of voice IT, including management and project management. I have two kids. They're 21 years old, boy-girl twins that live with me. I believe whoever is voted in should be standing as the voice for the people of Bennelong first and foremost and present their views. If elected, I will be here to vote on issues to represent the people of Bennelong, not what the party decides that I should vote. Ask any Labor representatives when he was able to vote against his party and vote in favour of the people of their electorate. Hart stands for health, environment, accountability, rights, transparency, and of course we have policies to build a strong economy. With health, we want Australians to live their best and healthiest life that they can do by encouraging healthy lifestyles, healthy remedies, educational programs to help facilitate good health and lessen the burden on the medical system. We want to guide allied health practitioners towards holistic and natural health alternatives. Our Hart Party founder is Michael O'Neill. His wife is Barbara O'Neill, some of you might have heard of. She's a world-renowned natural health practitioner and who's famous for her natural health remedies. We want to promote a healthy water supply without the addition of fluoride or toxic chemicals. We want people to make their own decisions for their health based on solid health medical advice. We want to support lifestyle choices that build and maintain a strong immune system, for example, increasing the consumption of organic food. In the environment, the Hart Party care for the environment, the land, air and water, as well as the flora and fauna. Plastics are killing our oceans. This is a worldwide problem, but we would like to reduce the amount of plastics that find their way into our oceans, such as your washing machine allows huge amounts of microplastics to find their way into the oceans from your clothes. We can capture the plastic output of our washing machines with a filter. So let's not start there to limit plastics. Plastics are killing our wildlife and poisoning our seafood. We want to encourage regenerative farming practices such as permaculture, biodynamic farming, and have better soils and lessen the need for pesticides. Solar panels and wind farms are a great idea until you see how much land that needs to be cleared. And a lot of this is pristine forests and the amount of resources required to achieve their goals. There are massive clearings of forests to install so-called renewables. Labor's plan to clear thousands of hectares of prime agricultural land and install these solar and wind farms. These solar panels release toxic chemicals into the land, making it unusable for agriculture. Under a Labor government, housing, food, electricity and other energy costs will continue to rise for all Australians and continue to increase the cost of living on Australians that are already struggling. Labor is pushing ahead with net zero, which is an unachievable agenda that is always going to send the Australian economy bankrupt. Our cheap coal will be sold to China for them to burn, leaving us with expensive solar and wind farms for electricity. If you think solar and wind are renewable, find out what happens to them after 15 or 20 years, where the solar panels are worn out and no longer producing electricity, and wind turbines are worn out, and rubbish on the landscape. And they cost, at today's prices, about $1 million to decommission. Ian Plimer, who's a world-renowned geologist and climate scientist, has a different view on climate change, but isn't given airtime. Shouldn't the science be debated rather than be bought? All we hear from are the scientists that promote the climate change agenda. Is climate change real? Is climate change really a problem? Let's get the science boffins together to have a respectful debate in front of everyone. With rights, I have serious problems with the Labor's bills that have been rushed through the Parliament in the last 3 years. The most concerning was the disinformation, misinformation bill and the hate speech laws that threaten jail for saying things that upset certain groups without intention. While the misinformation, disinformation bill has failed at the moment, I don't believe that Labor won't try and get it passed in their next term if they get a next term. This bill is equivalent to the Mystery of Truth from 1984, if you've ever read the
Barry.
book. I feel 5 minutes, is it? Okay.
Yep. Thank you so much. Just want to quickly wrap up the last sentence, or you've finished? Okay, you're muted. Okay, so we're going to next go on to the Adam Hart, who represents the Greens Party.
Thank you, Jeff, team at In the Cove, for organising tonight's candidate forum. Everyone, these forums are a great opportunity to hear directly from you, the community, and to hear what us candidates have to say on each of the issues. Before I introduce myself, I would like to pay of country. We are meeting here in Lane Cove on Camaragal land. The land has never been, it always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I pay my respects to the Aboriginal elders, past and present. So, my name is Adam Hart. I'm standing as the Greens candidate for Bennelong. I'm not a career politician, and I've put my hand up because I want to give back to the community. Giving back to the community is something that I personally really thrive on. I've been living in Lane about 8 years now, so not as long as some of the other candidates, but you know, I will call myself a Lane Covian. In my career, I've been working predominantly in community services and in the disability sector. So I've been working to support people get the support that they need in an equitable way. I've worked in specialist teams, working to get supported independent living for people who really need it. I've been working with other high and multifaceted allied health teams to get specialist disability accommodation. It's either, you know, the cost of living crisis is hitting everyone, and it's hitting communities, individuals, and small businesses alike. Every day, more people are struggling to keep a roof over their heads due to rents and mortgages going up. Families are struggling to afford the cost of everyday essentials like a visit to the dentist, mental health care, or going to the GP. Student debt is ballooning to records, and electricity bills are higher than ever. This leaves people struggling to make ends meet. It doesn't have to be like this. In a wealthy country like Australia, we can and should have a society where everyone is able to thrive, and the Greens have a plan to make this happen. We have a fully costed plan to invest more in affordable housing, so it is important, we have a plan to invest in community housing and stop the capital gains tax that property investors are living off. My wife and I are long-time renters, and we have well-paying jobs. We've earned more than we ever thought we could, but we still find it impossible to afford a place here in Sydney. We're not able to get our foot on the ladder, and we're struggling like so many other young people. While we've been fortunate enough to remain here, we've had friends who are working as teachers, nurses, get pushed further and further out of the city as rents and property prices continue to rise. If we don't act now, we'll end up in a city without young people. Young families will be pushed out. We won't have teachers or nurses to staff our schools and hospitals. Hospitality and retail businesses will struggle to retain staff, with workers needing to make longer and longer commutes. Federally, the Greens have secured billions in dollars in additional investment in social and community housing to address the housing crisis that we're currently living in. We have a plan to deliver even more. We need significant investment in affordable housing, in early childhood education, higher education, because at the end of the day, housing is a fundamental right and we need to invest in our people. Second, we have a plan to lower skyrocketing energy costs, which are impacting households and businesses alike, by prioritizing investment in solar and renewable energy, as well as battery technologies, to make sure that we have energy even when the sun doesn't shine. I'm also committed to ensuring that we have a strong local environmental law to protect our living planet. This means no new coal or gas mining during our climate emergency. It means putting an end to native logging in forests and protecting the planet that we live in. We need to put more money back in people's pockets so people can afford the essentials. We want to make a full body Medicare, so we will fund dental and mental health included into Medicare, so families aren't left out with the huge expenses for getting the healthcare that they need. We need to ensure that people can see the GP for free, and we will also take on the big supermarkets who are price gouging everyday people. Now, people will often ask how we would fund all of these great initiatives, and we have a pretty simple answer for that. We will tax billionaires and we will tax the 1 in 3 big corporations that currently pay no tax.
That's 5 minutes. Thanks, Adam.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last but certainly not least, we have Craig Bennett from the One Nation Party, who will now give us his 5-minute speech. And then after Craig, we will start taking questions from the chat room. Thank you. Craig? Craig, he was there.
Sorry, I just had to unmute.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Craig Bennett. I am a Christian, and I'd like to acknowledge Lord Jesus Christ as my saviour. I am 61 years of age. I've lived in Bennelong my entire life. I grew up, started off in Putney, then Boronia Park, or as it's known now, Gladesville or Hunters Hill. I've also
your video's not showing. That may be for purposely, but I just wanted to tell you we're just hearing your
video's
voice.
not on.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay. We can hear you very well, but I just want to let you know. Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. Just don't worry about it. Yes, I've run for public office because I've had a career in the community. I started off as a plumber. Then I was in the New South Wales Police Force. I'm retired now. I've, as I said before, lived in the Bennelong community my entire life. And I thought it was opportunistic to run for a candidate because I'm concerned about electricity and power, because I'm looking after my elderly mother at the moment, who has got end of life terminal COPD. And one of the things that's really worried me is the number of brownouts and blackouts we've been having. And not only is it inconvenient on those hot summer's days, it was actually life-threatening for my mother because she's on an oxygen generator, and as such, she needs the power. And I've rung up Energy Australia to find out how long the power would be out for. They couldn't give me any specific time periods. And when I asked why is the power out, they say they can't tell me. And I'm sure it's because of the renewables, the power surging, and because we're on solar, we're not getting the baseload power that we need. And Australia, I would argue, has the best coal. It's low sulfur, low particulate coal, which is very good. And what we're doing is shipping all our natural resources over to China, where China is using our great coal, best coal in the world, for their coal-fired power stations, which they're building at an astronomical rate. So they're getting the benefits that we've got. Our natural gas, we're just sending over to China instead of using it here ourselves, which is just a waste. And that's an economic impediment for us. Why send our energy overseas and not use it ourselves? And we're into renewables. We've got these wind farms popping up everywhere, damaging the countryside, hurting the wildlife. And you've got the Greens and whatever pumping up these wind farms, and they're actually hurting the wildlife. They're hurting the birds. They're hurting the environment. They're an eyesore. Another thing I'd like to talk about is the fuel excise. As a conservative, on the conservative side of politics, the One Nation Party would like to reduce the fuel excise by 26 cents per litre. Also, with the beer tax and alcohol tax, reduce that as well. I'd also like to talk about the NDIS. That's, I would argue, becoming unsustainable. The bureaucracy and the amount of money going into the NDIS is, for all intents and purposes, unsustainable. The NDIS is going to be more expensive than Medicare, and the bureaucracy is growing to an unsustainable rate, I would argue. Also, the foreign student numbers. I'd like to suggest that the amount of foreign students we have coming to Australia is actually driving up the price of housing. It's making it unaffordable for people that are living here at the moment. The One Nation Party would also like to cut the GST on building materials for homes under $1 million, which I would suggest would be a great initiative. We need to concentrate on paying down our debt, which the conservative side of politics and One Nation is alarmed about. The amount of the deficit is unsustainable. Also, tax bracket creep. We need to realign that.
Thank you, Craig. That's
Okay,
the
thank
end of
you.
your 5 minutes. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, here we go. We're going to start off with all of your questions. What we've done is there's a few on the same topic, so we've tried to put them all together. We're going to start off with the environment, and we're going to be asking each candidate if they'll support the opening of new coal and gas projects. And we'll start with you, John. Can you give us your thoughts on supporting the opening of new coal and gas projects? And if you could make it a nice, quick and sharp summary, that would be great.
Well, it's certainly not something I'm in favour of. I would say that if we have batteries to support existing solar panels on the roofs of houses, we can basically go a long way without new coal-fired power stations. There's some definite opportunities there. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, John. Jerome, what's your response to this? How can we support the opening of new coal? Will you support the opening of new coal and gas projects? Jerome.
Sorry, unmuted. It's overlooked, but this government is the first government in Australian history to actually refuse a coal mine. And of the approvals that have gone through, overwhelming majority have been for renewable energy. 81 renewable energy projects approved to power 10 million homes. Now, to have more oversight over fossil fuel projects, we need to change environmental law. The laws that which they are assessed against are the same laws that John Howard put into place a long time ago. They're broken, they're cumbersome, they don't give the Environment Minister enough levers. We've committed to reforming that law, like those who have an interest in climate change, and I'm one of them. I was disappointed that we couldn't get those laws through in this term of Parliament. But I'm one of the loudest voices in the Labor caucus to ensure that we had a second term commitment to proceed with a National Environmental Protection Agency and to reform these broken environmental laws that will give the Minister laws to be able to, assess coal and gas projects a lot more stringently. They need to be, and we need to reduce emissions. But we don't do that through statements. We do that through law. We need to change the law.
Thank you, Jerome. The next person I'll ask the question of, will you support the opening of new coal and gas projects, is to Craig Bennett from One Nation. Craig?
Sorry, for some reason it keeps muting. Yeah, emphatically, I do support coal and gas. We have the best coal. It's low sulfur, low ash. We're not using it. China's using it to their advantage. We are absolutely crazy for not using our natural resources. It's pulling in, we're getting the money for it, selling it to China, but not using it for ourselves. So it makes manufacturing more expensive. We're using our leverage. It's crazy we're not using our natural coal and natural gas. Thank you.
So I'm just going to let you know that what we do is in between questions, we mute you and then we ask you to unmute. So be ready to unmute between questions, and that'll save some time. So thank you very much. Okay, Adam, would you like to answer that question about the opening of new coal and gas projects? And you need to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
You are.
I would not support the opening of new coal or gas mines if I was lucky enough to be elected. And just while I answer, I just think it's quite interesting that during the opening statement, there was concern about the harm of animals and the environment, but we're all too happy to open up a new coal mine if Craig was elected. So look, I really wouldn't. And for any of the open mines that are currently in operation, once they're done, I would be looking at how they can rejuvenate the land. Can't leave a scar on the earth.
Okay, and last but not least on that question, Barry, if you can unmute yourself and answer that question.
Yeah, well, you'd have to really judge on what the baseload power is going to be in the future. And wind farms work about 2 days out of 7, so there's not a lot of future unless people want brownouts, blackouts. So if the future power needs are going to need it, if the renewables can't supply it, then we're going to have to go for new coal and gas.
Thank you. Okay, so our next question is a very hot topic, and it's from renters. And the general question is how can you help the residents of Bennelong, including renters and apartment dwellers, access the health and cost of living benefits of renewable electricity, including batteries and solar and panels? So it's about apartment dwellers being able to get batteries and solar panels onto apartments. So we might as well just start with you, Adam. If you can unmute.
Look, while the Labor Party have some good work on making the battery technology more affordable at 30%, we should be doing more always to bring down the cost of living and to protect the environment. There's no reason why we can't start up community-based battery farms, virtual power plants. We already have some systems like this within Lane Cove in the canopy. You can see that there's a lot of local government infrastructure already containing power storage solutions for the days that the wind doesn't blow and for the days that the sun doesn't shine. The other part, the cost of living. Look, our policies, the Greens have been very loud and proud about making GP visits free, making Medicare cover the whole body, and really sticking it to the major supermarkets, price gouging everyone.
Thank you, Adam. Craig, I'll ask you that question. So it's about cost of living, what can be done, and for apartment dwellers, how can they get renewable electricity, including battery and solar power? That's Craig.
Yeah, well, I guess it's outside my purview, but I would say working with landlords to facilitate solar panels and getting their boxes would be electrical boxes wired would be, if that could be streamlined, that would be an incentive. I think the impediment is because it's a shared or strata title situation. There would be legislation, I guess, involved to make it more streamlined and easier for renewables. That's my answer.
Thank you. Barry Devine, can you talk? Do you want me to repeat the question? You're okay with that?
No, I suppose it would be giving incentives to the body corporates to be able to install solar panels and install batteries, because you want the power to work after hours too. So yeah, it's all about incentives. Craig talked about legislation. Well, maybe you need to think about legislation in that way, but incentives basically to go for the solar.
Thank you. John, would you like me to re-ask the question? You're okay with it?
Okay, all right. Well, let's see. Cost of living. Basically, we are talking about turning around the tax system. So rather than speculation, you're actually hopefully having more real economic effort in things that are actually productive. And certainly, as far as batteries and similar in blocks of units, it's basically an issue for the body corporate, and providing, I guess, making the legislation more streamlined so that body corporates can actually act on that. And if you put up your hand and you want it to happen, it's easier for you as an individual to persuade the body corporate to go in that direction. So I acknowledge that I'm not totally across the details, but that's my thoughts on that issue.
Thank you. And last, Jerome, your thoughts on the issue.
Thanks, Jackie, and thanks for the question. This is a real passion subject of mine, making sure that renters and people that live in strata have access to the same technology that homeowners do. Recently, we've put up Solar for Apartments program, partnering with state governments. I think it's $100 million across the country, supporting state government programs which pay up to half of solar installations on apartment buildings. That funding is available now. Applications are open now. If I've got time, I'll throw the link into the chat. But I think the biggest impediment to getting renters and strata owners getting access to solar and renewable energy technology are state government rules. And I've already signaled to the Climate Change Minister and Energy Minister that this is a topic I really want to get my teeth into if I'm re-elected. I've already met with State Government Minister Annalek Chanavong. It's ridiculous to me that someone that lives in a strata can install an air conditioning unit without much of a fuss. But if they want to install solar panels on the common roof above their townhouse, or if they want to put a battery in their garage, costs them thousands of dollars, takes 2 or 3 years. And then if you've got 1 or 2 people that are ideologically opposed to renewable energy, you just don't get approval at all. That's madness, and it absolutely needs to change. The federal government has a role to play in leading that national conversation, because of course every state has different rules. And whilst there have been improvements, it is still way too hard for renters and people that live in strata to access the savings and the cost of living savings and the ability to reduce their emissions. And yeah, I just really want to get into that in the next term, because there's nothing that we're rolling out. You talk about the battery subsidy, talk about solar. Renters aren't excluded from that. Strata people are not excluded. It's the state laws that just make it way too difficult to get renewable energy technology in your home. And I want to, lead the fight to bash through some of that ridiculous regulation and fix it.
While you're still on there, I'll ask you the next question. It's becoming increasingly difficult for young people to afford their own homes. Given that finding that housing is a significant factor in the transfer of wealth from the lowest to the highest, what structural reforms are you implementing to decrease the wealth transfer?
Well, on housing, we've taken probably the most ambitious housing policy through the Parliament and starting to deliver it in decades. We've put, I think it's $33 billion towards housing in 3 years, compared to what the Liberals did in 9 years, which was under $5 billion. And that's all types of housing. That's off-market housing, so social and affordable housing through the Housing Australia Future Fund. In round one, 380 social and affordable homes will be delivered in Bennelong. Huge structural reform to rental properties. Our build to rent taxation changes will deliver already 1,000 build to rent apartments in Bennelong, primarily Macquarie Park and Meadowbank, but that creates a whole new product for renters to live in, including long-term leases, 5 and 10 years. And also our recently announced housing policies to ensure that deposits for all first home buyers are only 5%. I remember when I bought my first property 20 odd years ago, my first home, I had a deposit of 2%. 20% now is a lot. It's a very successful scheme to have a home deposit at 5%. And we've announced that we'd do that on top of new homes, a $10 billion fund to build new homes exclusively for first home buyers. We need more supply, and we're working with the states to deliver that. We're putting billions of dollars towards all type of housing, market, non-market, social, affordable, rental, and market homes. And you compare that to what the alternative government are proposing, and their record on this, and it's chalk and cheese. We need more time to deliver more homes so that young people can afford to live in this area. I gave a speech on this in Parliament not that long ago. Sydney and Bennelong needs young people to continue to make it vibrant and succeed. We don't want young people to go interstate or into the regions. We want to live in our vibrant cities, and to do that, we need more homes.
Thank you. Adam, would you like to answer that question? Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind.
It's becoming increasingly difficult for young people to afford their own home, given the finding that housing is a significant factor in the transfer of wealth from the lowest 60% to the highest 10%. What structural reforms are you implementing, or would you implement, to decrease the wealth transfer?
Right. Well, thank you for the question. I think, making housing more affordable would be the first step in doing that. Whether it's robust structural changes to capital gains tax and supporting people to get into their own home. Housing in Australia is one of the largest and most significant vehicles of wealth building for people in Australia. It's part of our Australian identity, is to build and own a home, or buy and own a home. On Jerome's point about supply, look, supply is part of the equation. There's no doubt about that. But if we wanted to increase supply, the 2022 census showed that there was over 1 million empty homes. You know, if we were serious about addressing supply, we would make those homes available. Housing is a necessity. It's not a speculative investment to, you know, just gamble their money with when people are suffering at, you know, without having shelter. So the Greens, we would definitely support, you know, any policy that can reduce the barrier to getting into the housing market, and we would make it more equitable by limiting capital gains tax.
Great. John August, would you like to answer that question?
Okay, so as far as wealth transfer goes, yes, we're talking about moving things to land value taxation and changing the capital gains discount. So we're talking about reducing the amount of money that you can actually make from housing. Now, you know, it's certainly reinforcing Adam's position that we have a lot of land that's held out of use. So people could be living in it or people could be developing it, but as a matter of the economic incentives in play, people are not doing that. But certainly if you expand the role of land value taxation, that means it costs people to hold land out of use. So either they should do something with it or sell it to someone who will. And those are things that would actually improve supply. But yes, if you're talking about wealth transfer, certainly implementing land value taxation and changing the way capital gains tax works, those are things that will reduce the bonus that you will make from buying and selling property, and mean that wealth transfer will in fact be less. So that's at least as I am understanding the question. So I think I trust that answers the question. I didn't ask you to repeat it. So
no, I think you have. Barry, would you like to answer that question? I can repeat it if you'd like.
I think a lot of the problem lies with the state government. I think it's a matter of the federal government negotiating with the state government and councils to cut out some of the red tape to open up new housing estates and to cut stamp duties and enable younger people to be able to buy their own houses. And yeah, so it's a lot of the problem is state. So negotiating with the state premiers.
Thank you. Craig, do you need me to repeat the question or you're okay?
Now, in relation to the cost of housing, I'd argue that it's overregulated. We should streamline the regulations, make it a lot easier for builders to just get on with the job instead of the inane, excessive amount of overregulation that stifles the industry. I'd also argue that the One Nation party has advocating for a 5-year moratorium on GST for building materials used in the construction of new housing. Thank you.
Well, I'll stay with you, Craig.
Yeah.
And this next question is just a yes or no. Would your party review capital gains and negative gearing of real estate if elected?
It's out of my purview, so I'm not across that policy, so I'd rather not answer.
Okay. Adam, would your party review capital gains and negative gearing of real estate?
Yes.
Great. Barry?
Yes, everything's worth reviewing. So yes, I would think about reviewing it.
Great. John? John, would your party look at reviewing capital gains and negative gearing of real estate? Don't know where John's gone. All of a sudden his picture's gone. I might come back to him. Jerome, would you like to answer that question, yes or no?
Well, housing is not as simple as a yes or no answer, Jackie. That policy was taken to 2 elections and was soundly defeated. We are focused now on building more homes, not revisiting past policies. We're one term into one of the largest investments in new homes that the Commonwealth's ever seen, particularly in the last 20 decades. We need more time to build more homes. That's our policy for now.
Okay. And John, you're back. Would you look at reviewing capital gains and negative gearing of real estate?
Yes, well, that's certainly part of our policy positions of both Pirate and Fusion. It's certainly there on our web pages if you want to check out our policies.
Thank you. Well, I'll stay with you. This is gender equality. Someone has noted that they're disappointed that there are no female candidates for the standing in Bennelong. What policies does your party have to access domestic violence and advance women's health and promote gender equity?
Okay, well, I'll first off say that within the greater Fusion umbrella, we do have a number of female candidates. So certainly, I guess, none in Bennelong to speak of. But certainly, I'm aware of the issues around domestic violence and the things that are causal factors, toxic masculinity and so on. So I do actually believe in, basically making people aware of it. I would also say that there's a pernicious influence on schools from Andrew Tate and other such people in the world, and certainly that needs to be identified. Now, as far as particular policies are concerned, I can only say I certainly endorse a general support of these things, but I can't go into too much detail on the cuff.
Thank you. Barry, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, I certainly support the rights of all people. That includes women, and there was a survey going around about the Sex Discrimination Act, which I supported. And I think we need to stamp out domestic violence, and yes, we need to do whatever we can. So yes, all for the rights of everybody, including women.
Craig, would you like me to repeat the question? I'm disappointed that there are no female candidates standing for Bennelong. What are your policies? What policies does your party have to address domestic violence, advance women's health, and promote gender equality?
Well, as far as women are concerned, I would advocate equal opportunities. It being equal in all realms. I don't know why there is no candidate for Bennelong, but whilst I was in the police, I've dealt with a lot of domestic issues, and I'm all for more women and advocating them running for candidacy and equal opportunities for everybody. That's what I believe, irrespective of sex or creed.
Jerome, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Jessica, for this question. I too was disappointed to see that of the 8 candidates, none were women. I am part of a government that is the first majority female government in Australian history. So in the 47th Parliament, 52% of Labor members are women, and this is not by accident. In 1994, the ALP made the decision to introduce quotas for women at the 1994 National Conference. And that hard work by Labor members, men and women, has led us to this Parliament being the first majority women. We need to represent everyone in our community, and we need more women in Parliament. So that's what my party's policy is, and it's got us there. I don't know that that the Liberals have that same policy. On women's health, we've just recently announced, I think it's cumulative $700 million package for women's health, and we've got one of those investments here. So in Hunters Hill Medical Practice, we've got one of, I think it's around 30 specialist endometriosis and pelvic pain clinics operating right now out of Hunters Hill Medical Practice. We've had the first PBS listing for new oral contraceptive pills in more than 30 years. Why it's taken 30 years for this to come on is beyond me, but we've addressed that. We've got lower costs and better access to long-term contraceptives as well, and more Medicare support for women experiencing menopause. Contraceptives as well are part of those additions to the PBS. We've got the national plan to end violence, end domestic violence against women, which is a $2.3 billion investment to implement the national plan, including that escaping violence payment. Like, this is a very broad question, but I might just stop there for brevity. But I do agree with you, Jessica. It's a disappointment not to see more female candidates in the field in Bennelong.
No, I do appreciate it's a very broad and very tough topic to.
I could speak for about half an hour on that one, but I'll.
So could I.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not standing. Adam, would you like to have a say on that?
Yes, so would you please
Sure.
repeat it?
Yeah. Obviously, people are disappointed that there's no female candidates in the Bennelong electorate. But what policies does the Greens have to address domestic violence, advance women's health, and promote gender equality?
Okay, fantastic. So before I put my hand up for pre-selection, I waited till the last minute, and there was no female candidate that put their hand up, unfortunately. But I would have loved the opportunity to support a female candidate that is in my position now. The Greens, we have a very strong affirmative policy internally when it comes to designing all policies to make sure that those affected by the policies that we put out into the public have been, scrutinized by members of those communities. So when we have any policy that is related to domestic violence, we will often contact or have survivors have input into the policy. When it comes to female health, we will always have a working group full of people who are able to contribute onto that. Through my work, I've seen people survive violence. I've seen children survive domestic violence, and it is terrifying and it's real, and a lot more really needs to be done when you're working with families who've been able to get out of those situations. It is bravery. It is an unfathomable situation. But regarding policies that the Greens support, we will be calling for a $1 billion investment annually over 12 years to fund frontline services, including housing, to end national violence, women and children. So that would be supporting domestic refuge places. We will also be supporting a doubling of the escape violence payment. So I think that would bring it up to about $10,000 as well. We will support all of the government services that are helping those, and additionally non-profit organizations that are really the refuge, really the oasis that people fleeing from domestic violence really need.
I'm going to ask you the next question, Adam, and it's about university funding. Many university degrees have a prerequisite for unpaid placement. This means that students have to forego paid employment while they do these placements for periods of up to 10 to 20 weeks. Do candidates support an expansion of paid placement to all university students, particularly those going into medical degrees, physio, OT, where they have to do long placements without the ability to earn any income?
Well, look, short answer, yes. You know, we really need to support people when they want to take a higher education. They want to better the society that we all live in. People working in allied health, they are of great importance to a lot of the people that I've worked with in vulnerable communities, such as those living with disabilities. So, you know, short answer is yes. I believe that we would definitely support.
Thank you. Craig, would you like to answer that question, please? Just got to unmute.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yes, it's about university students that when they go on prac, they're up to 10 to 20 weeks where they're on prac and they aren't getting paid. Would you and support them being paid by the government while they're doing those pracs?
Honestly, I wouldn't support. I think we've got too many students here at the moment, and I believe the amount of students we've got here from overseas is driving up the house prices, driving up rents. No, I wouldn't support it.
Okay, thank you. Barry, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, I would support them if it's a needed occupation. If we're in need of that area of expertise, then you need to encourage people to be able to get through the university degree. And so by paying them, would support them and encourage them.
Thank you. Jerome. Unmute, Jerome.
Sorry, thanks, Jackie. So these prac payments came off the back of a really important piece of work done by Minister Jason Clare. It's called the University Accord, and it sets a 20 to 25 year blueprint for reform in the university sector. One of those reforms, of course, was reforming HECS to make it fairer. And we've done a lot of that, including waiving 20% of the HECS debt, including reforming the formulas so that HECS repayments are fairer and fixing up that ridiculous indexation issue that happened. So that was all in the university's accord. The areas in which there is a prac payment now that we've implemented, the first Commonwealth government to ever do so, were in areas identified by the university's accord. So they said that they, especially those in teaching, nursing, midwifery, and social work, that they needed financial support because there are areas of immediate need. We've implemented and budget for that. But this document, you know, is a living, breathing document. It should be bipartisan. I don't know, you know, I'd love to hear what my Liberal Party opponent would say, but he's not here. But this is a document that will be implementing over multiple governments. And for now, we've implemented for teaching, nursing, midwifery, and social work.
Thank you, Jerome. John, would you like to answer that question? Just gotta, yep, that's it.
Okay, I was trying to unmute a few times there, but it's sort of like one of those buttons that don't work when you press them. Anyway, so yes, it is something that I would support within Fusion and Pirates. We do support public health and public education, so it's a part of the broader package where we do support these things.
While I've got you, childcare, and we've got a few on that. I'm sure that you saw or read about the recent shocking Four Corners report. What can we do to improve regulation and oversight of childcare centres, and should the private for-profit sector be banned from running daycare centres?
Well, I can only say that we've got so many problems with the bureaucracy that, you know, it does seem like a merry-go-round where you have problems, you have an inquiry. If you're lucky, then, you know, more money will be put into oversight, and you've probably taken money from something else where, you know, 5 or 10 years down the track, something else will blow up in another area. So it's a broader problem with just the whole thing about regulation as such. And I guess it is a fair question whether, you know, we should run things via government with supposed inefficiencies, and if we let the private industry run it then they're going to tend to make a mess of it. But I suppose basically, yes, we do want to have good regulation that works in the sense that we can actually afford that good regulation, which seems like a struggle, or indeed get rid of such private facilities. So I'm open to the possibility.
Okay. Adam, your response to that?
Sorry, Jackie, but would you mind repeating?
Yeah. It's after the recent shocking Four Corners report on private equity in childcare, would you ban for-profits from running daycare centres?
Look, I think I want to give credit to Ms. Abigail Boyd. She helped and worked with Four Corners to deliver that report, and the findings of it were absolutely shocking. And when it comes to these private equity companies providing such services, it is a major pillar of my beliefs, which align with the Greens, that people should always come before profits. When it comes to, especially when it comes to the care of our most vulnerable in our communities, those in aged care, disability, and childcare, it should the surplus should not go to private shareholders. The surplus should be reinvested into care that people need. It's just, it is not right that someone can company and a child get hurt and they still get paid from the dividend. And these fines, my personal take after seeing parts of the Four Corners report is these fines are just a part of doing business for these equity firms. They're not really beholden to the regulations that are required. We have staff that are overworked, ratios that are not being adhered to, allergens that aren't being properly monitored when we have children who can't voice their own needs to the childcare provider. We have stress fractures, spiral fractures happening, and we have people with more needs being physically restrained. So, at the moment, we live in a very capitalist society, and it's my belief that if they can't do the job, government should come in and close them down and assume the responsibility if they can't do it. So yeah, more government run facilities.
Right. Craig, your views on that?
So is it unmuted now?
No, you're right.
Okay. Yeah. It's a balancing act. People must be protected. Children have to be protected, but we've got to balance it against throwing bucket loads of money into over-regulation, overspending. Just like the NDIS, it's out of control at the moment. And if there's knee-jerk reactions, I mean, people must be protected, but it's a balancing act, and that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerome?
Thanks, Jackie. I'll take it back a bit. So the Prime Minister said this, the Minister said this. We're working towards a universal, affordable, and accessible early childhood education and care system. So one that is an essential part of what it is to be a parent. If you want people to have access to early and affordable childhood education, that people will be able to do that. It's really good for our economy as well, freeing up people to go back to work if they choose to. And we know that people that go to early childhood education, kids that go to early childhood education are more likely to finish school, more likely to get a tertiary education. So as we move towards setting up that universal system, of course, we'll look at unscrupulous early childhood education and care providers. And we're going to use our big lever in this, which is the funding, to strengthen those laws. We've already just recently announced, like only 2 weeks ago, and it's lost in all the other world events, that we're going to strengthen regulatory and enforcement powers to deal with providers that put profit over quality and child safety by doing a couple of things. We're going to prevent providers who persistently fail to meet standards from operating one, or opening new childcare centres. We're going to take further compliance action, including the option to cut off access to childcare subsidy funding. We're going to strengthen powers to deal with providers, and we'll consult closely with the sector and the states and territories. And I'm just going to say also the states and territories do most of this compliance work, but obviously we fund a lot of it. So we're going to consult with the sector and states and territories to ensure that the changes don't impact families and quality providers. We've made that announcement. It will require legislation, which will have to be in the next parliament. But whatever we do in this early education space, just be aware our goal is to make this affordable, accessible, and universal. Something that I know the Liberal Party don't want. And it's something that we absolutely believe in for modern families in the regions and the cities.
Thank you, Jerome. Barry.
I didn't see the Four Corners report, but the cost of childcare is horrendous. And I think most mothers would prefer to stay home with their children up to the age of 5 when they go to primary school, kindergarten. So I think it'd be best to try and give incentives for mothers to stay home and mind the children, and I'm sure that would be best for the children as well. But if both parents have to work or want to work, then yeah, there should be the government should provide services for parents that can't afford childcare.
So we've got 2 more questions to go, and then we'll have to wrap it up. But there are 2 more Meet the Candidates forums that you can go along to on the 22nd and 23rd. They are a lot more to do with climate and nature conservation, but they're still available. But we're getting lots and lots of questions about community representation and crossing the floor. So I'm going to stay with you, Barry. As an elected representative, will you vote to represent your local community, even if it puts you against the direction of your party? For example, topics on assisted dying, climate change, LGBTQI+, etc.
Absolutely. If I'm voted in, I'm here to represent the electorate, not to represent the party. So I would be taking all my constituents' concerns on board and representing the majority view.
Right. John?
There we go. I did try to mute and then it said no, but okay, I'm speaking now.
Yeah.
Okay, within the Pirates and Fusion, now look, partly because of the onerous legislation. I mean, the laws about how many people you need for a political party were increased from 500 to 2,000. And I think, if I understand correctly, both Labor and Liberal had a handle on that. So as a result of that pressure, we were obliged to merge, and we have a federated structure where our different branches have a degree of autonomy within the broader Fusion umbrella. And broadly speaking, I can actually disagree with any given Pirate or Fusion policy, as long as I don't undermine the party and I don't sort of basically challenge the manner in which the party has come to that conclusion. So I have basically total freedom to I guess set my own policy position, but if I didn't lean on a great deal of the Fusion and Pirate Party policies, then what would be the point? But anyway, in answer to your question, I can actually have a position that is quite independent of the Pirate and Fusion policies, but most of the time I can't see that I would actually want to.
Thank you. Craig? Yep, you're on. Oh, sorry, unmute. Sorry, you've got to unmute.
Sorry, no, I wouldn't cross the floor. I wouldn't go against party policy. No need to.
Okay, great. Adam?
Hi. So look, I think being part of the Greens and representing the community, people will know what my values are and where I stand, and it would depend on the policy that was being put in question, and listening to the community as well. If there was significant opposition to a particular party, I would go through a couple of processes. I would, one, take that back to the party room and see if I can get our position shifted that aligns with the community sentiment. But yeah, if I needed to go against the party and there was a significant community grassroots opposition to a policy, then yes, we are a grassroots party, and I would be listening to the constituents of Bennelong.
Right, Jerome.
Well, I kind of disagree with the premise of the question. I don't get told how to vote. I'm part of a party, and we have processes to deal with proposed legislation, to implement new ideas, to debate topics. And some of those topics have very robust debates. I've spoken out on a number of laws proposed internally and externally. I've won some of those debates and I've lost some of those debates. But being part of a party means that, or party of government means that we're able to enact change. And sometimes that change is a very good thing to achieve. And you know, I was able to change government policy on digital payments, you know, because of work I did as a single backbencher. We're able to get the government to change its position on regulation of surcharges and costs to small businesses when you tap your debit card. That came from, you know, that would not have been able to be announced if it weren't the fact that I was a member of the government. So, you know, we have our internal processes, and I'll prosecute an argument on behalf of my community, as I have all term. I did that on a lot of cost of living measures. I've done that repeatedly on environmental issues. And because I'm in a party of government, we can implement that important legislative change that we need in some of these key issues.
I'm going to keep you there, and this is a yes or no question, but will you continue to
I
support?
do not commit to a yes or no answer.
I know, that's why I'm making you do it. What's your party's position on flexible work in the federal public service? Will you keep on supporting the right to work from home? Yes.
Absolutely. It's madness that Peter Dutton has come out so hard against working from home. It is just shows how out of touch he is with modern families and the modern workplace. 100% absolutely yes, support work from home, and don't believe anyone that says Peter Dutton has changed his mind on this. He's had plenty of positions on it.
See, I told you could do it. Adam.
Yeah, if working from home is best for everyone, of course. I realize that it may not be for everyone. I particularly prefer to go into the office. That's just who I am. But I know that my partner, she really does like the flexibility of working from home, and you know, it's great to support the cost of living issue that we're living. We can save on the commute. They can you know, have better work-life balance as well. There's no reason why many people, obviously there are a few practical examples, can't have a work from home balance.
Thank you. Barry?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question? Something
Oh,
about working from home.
Yes. Would you support the right for people to still work from home?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the quality of VPN and Zoom calls and all the technology we got, and it saves the people having to drive, you know, congestion on the roads. So yes, working from home is a good thing in most jobs.
Great. Craig?
Sorry, am I unmuted now?
Yeah, you're on. You're on. I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Look, obviously there are situations where it may be extenuating situations, but broadly, I would say no. It's good to be in an office. It's good to be together. It's good to fill the buildings up that are paid for by the government, and extenuating circumstances, but broadly, no, work from the office.
Okay. So this is our last question for the night. So I'll stay with you, Craig, if you don't mind, so you can keep yourself off of mute. You're muted. Okay. So this is a nice one to end on. The world feels really unstable at the moment. What will you deliver to our local area that will give us some reason to being optimistic about the future?
It is unstable. There's a lot happening. The pendulum is swinging the other way with what's happening over in the US, and that's a good thing. I think there's stability in becoming more conservative. I would argue that Australia needs to become more like what's happening in the US, enshrine free speech. If we get that taken away, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, as the One Nation Party wants to do. They want to enshrine free speech within the Constitution. So as long as we've got free speech and we have reliable, cheap power, and we just need to stifle the bureaucracy growing and over the government. You can see what's happening over in the States with USAID and NGOs and whatever. So I just believe we're the pendulum swinging in the right direction. That's it.
Jerome, what would be something that you could do to make us feel optimistic for the future?
Well, I think we've turned a corner locally. I know there's a lot of uncertainty across the world, and we'll have to deal with that as it comes. But I know on the cost of living front and the economy, we're starting to see it turn. When we came to government, inflation was rising and had a 6 in front of it. It's now falling and is within band with 2.4%. Interest rates were going up and rose and rose. And now they're coming down with the first cut in a long time, and the market expects a few more to come. Our policies on taking more action on climate change will continue and progress, and we know that there's more work to do. And in particular on housing, we're seeing more of those policies deliver more and more housing so that people can afford to live in Sydney and across the country. Like, we have a plan to tackle the issues that voters raise with me, and that's something to be really optimistic about. We're not going into this election resting on our laurels and looking back. We're proud of what we have achieved, but we know that there's more to do. And hopefully, with your support and with the country's support, we can continue to tackle the challenges that we'll undoubtedly face day to day.
Thank you.
Be hopeful.
Thank you. John, what are you going to do to make us optimistic?
Well, first off, I would point out, I think you missed out on me as far as that question about working from home.
Oh, sorry. Well, please tell me. I apologize.
Well, certainly, as far as celebrating, the rights of the individual, I certainly would recognise the right of working at home from home, and that is part of the whole Pirate Party process. Now, I think you had a question about uncertainty. Could you repeat the question?
Yes, certainly. The world feels really unstable at the moment. Well, what will you deliver to our local area that will give us reason to be optimistic about the future?
Well, one of the things is that question talks about the local area. Now, from my point of view, I think, global instability and uncertainty suggests to me that we should have an independent foreign policy where we stand more tall, more proud. And in a sense, because we've taken that position, I guess maybe we're getting a bit anxious about the economy and so on. But at least if we're standing on our own 2 feet internationally, we can feel a bit better about ourselves and the way we relate to the world. So in a sense, we should reach out to the world proudly and boldly and not timidly. And one hopes that that will actually make us feel better along the way. But I have to admit, as far as, what is going on in Bennelong to make, I guess, the world, less uncertain, certainly if we are changing our economy, if we're sort of cutting back on basically putting in land value taxation, cutting back on negative gearing, recalibrating our economy, implementing universal basic income so that people can actually live effective lives without having to jump through bureaucratic hoops. I think that is certainly going to help. And I suppose it does bear on a question that I didn't answer as well as perhaps I should have. I would say universal basic income does actually make life a lot easier for people who are in difficult situations, and that does include women who are suffering from domestic violence and similar things like that. But that whole package of things would actually, I guess, both internationally and domestically, try to push back against the uncertainty that's pushing at us.
Thank you, John. Apologise for missing you out last time. Barry. There you go.
Yeah. Our rights and our freedom of speech are under threat at the moment, and we do need to make sure that we do maintain our freedom of speech. Some of these bills that have been put through by Labor are threatening our rights, our freedom of speech. The other thing that we could do is to increase people's real incomes. Now, let's stop wasting money, giving $1.5 billion to Ukraine and LGBTQIA, ridiculous amounts of money to those sort of things. People have the right to be what they want, but we don't have to put those amounts of money while people are suffering in Australia. So we need to increase people's standard of living.
Thank you. And last but not least, the last question of the night, Adam.
Thanks, Jackie. Look, in terms of what I would do to make everyone feel a bit more optimistic about the future, I think, when everyone is allowed to, be free and proud of who they are, would definitely give that we can relax a little bit more. Addressing the cost of living crisis to a point where people are not living survival mode. If elected, I would love to promote more night events so people are able to socialize that a little bit more and really get a sense of community, connect, get to know your neighbors so you're not being called out if you're a part of a subsect of our community just because someone doesn't understand you. We'll be able to build that common ground with each other. And I think once we legalize it, everyone will be a lot more happier and a lot more cohesive, and we'd get along a lot better. And I think once we have a sense of community, not in that survival mode, everyone will be a lot more optimistic about the future.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to say thank you to the candidates for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody. Most of you have stayed around, which is fantastic. And I really am sorry, and I know you're going to get mad at me for not asking all your questions, but you inundated us with questions, which means you're really engaged, which is a fabulous thing for local democracy. So thank you very much for everyone for coming. We are backing this up with a Meet the Candidates article, and we've asked each of the candidates to provide some further information, and we'll get that out in our weekly news blast. So thank you very much for supporting tonight, the candidates, and for your amazing support of In the Cove. Good night.